Okay, so the first one I want to start with is the history of mass tourism. So really, this webinar is focusing on what we call British leisure, or British lives through leisure, and that's really well not only tourism and holiday making, but we're going to be looking at pastimes and sport and hobbies as well. And I think I've kind of identified three resources that I think have enough primary source material that warrant showing in under this theme. But I thought we'd start with the holiday making first, and this is a brand new resource that only published 2 months ago. So this is a multi-archive project. Just click into the participating libraries page here under the introduction. So this is a multi-archive project which focuses on the growth of everyday tourism, of tourism for the everyman. That's the evolution of travel agencies, of camping and the great outdoors, um, and I suppose package holidays evolving through the 20th century. But this really tracks that move from British and American tourism being a day out, a day at the seaside, and that transition to package holidays and travel by air and travel by sea. And hopefully, some of the archives we're going to be looking at will kind of give you a flavour for exactly what content that is. So you can see some of the contributing archives to this project. And we're going to be focusing quite heavily on Thomas Cook, the Thomas Cook archives. Now these have never been digitised before. They are all scans of the original copies, so there's no microfilm content here. These are all high quality original scans. And I thought Thomas Cook would be a good starting place, seeing as they were so seminal to, well, they're one of the oldest, if not the oldest, British travel agency there is. So they were really seminal in um, starting kind of excursions and day tourism in the mid to late 19th century, and and that moves right through to the 1970s and the 1980s when they're at the forefront of package holidays, using film to promote their holidays and things like that. So the way we're going to get to that is go library and archive, and we're going to filter by Thomas Cook. Okay, so 7 pages of results, still quite a lot, but I'm going to sort by date. So we can sort alphabetically, or by date, or by document type, or view any of these kind of dynamic column filters as well. But right now I'm going to sort by date ascending. So 1845 is when the start of this Thomas Cook material begins, really. So we can see here, lots of Cook's Excursionists. There's a few kind of copies of those. Some tickets for day excursions. And this is really kind of atypical of the early, or the mid 19th century material you're going to be finding in the Thomas Cook archive. It's these posters and adverts for these day excursions, really, or sometimes they were 2-3 day trips, all by train to usually kind of British seaside resorts and various towns and villages around them. So we can move this around if we want, but I'm actually going to blow this up full screen so we can see it. So our very early kind of, I suppose, rail excursion. So head back and we'll take a look. Let's take a look at one more whilst we're on this end of the material. Let's maybe take a look at this So just before I click into this one, when we click in from our search results, we get to this page, which is our document details. So this is where you're going to find all of the metadata, the ability to download to PDF, or just download a specific image range. Obviously, there's only one image here. There's also a citation and export tool as well. So if you have students who you think this material will be really useful for, they can just reference this without really having to think about it at all. So let's click into this one. Okay, so this is what 1858. So now let's head back to the search results. Again, we can see this is Thomas Cook material. Let's head back one more. And now what I'm going to do is actually flip. So I'm going to sort by date descending. Okay, so around 1974, I mean, that's really when this Thomas Cook material ends. It's really the kind of mid-70s. So we can take a look at what we have here. You know, we can see instantly very different material. So Cook's Sterling Holidays in Jordan. So this is a travel brochure from 1969. So if we're looking at just how British tourism evolves, I would say Thomas Cook is really, you know, a really good focal point and very central and just a very meaty archive to to really demonstrate how it changes. So we can move between pages using these arrows. Let's maybe blow this one up. So this is a 2-week excursion in Jordan, it seems, for £112. Wow, that's pretty cheap. And I should say that obviously we do have, you know, a good level of indexing on all of these, but if you do want to search, everything that's typed is full text searchable as well. So you can just search through these brochures and find you know, very specific places or names, or, for example. So let's head back and maybe take a look at one more result. What's this? I don't think I've seen this one before. Ah, yes. So this is actually a brochure advertising to go and watch a rocket launch, really. And I think at this point, you know, Thomas Cook were, you know, they were national size from well, ahead of their competitors for quite a few years. So it's these kind of niche hotel holiday offerings that they were giving as well. There we are. A visit to Cape Kennedy to watch the launch. So there we are. That is a bit of the Thomas Cook archive. Again, how did I get there? I got there just by coming to the documents list and just filtering by library and archive. Okay. So what we can also do is we can actually filter by what we call theme. And what we do is we take every single document in this resource and we index it manually with a key theme. And really that's to help lower level students or undergraduates get to primary source material. You know, if they haven't had that much experience, you know, actually using primary source databases and working out how to get to the material, they can hopefully do it a bit easier with these key themes in place. So let's refine by road, rail, and air travel. I should also say that these key themes usually are a pretty good indicator for, you know, key topics and areas that are covered in the resource. So if you're looking for something very specific, you could just have a quick look at these themes before running your search. Okay, so we've refined by road, rail, and air travel. What we can do is actually view the regions that these are applicable to as well. So if you're kind of thinking, well, who is this material applicable to? The people we've actually had a lot of scholars who are interested in kind of design history, um, architectural history, coming to look at this material because a lot of these brochures kind of advertise what were kind of uh, new kind of airports and infrastructure to kind of accommodate this style of mass tourism, particularly around resort hotels and things like that. And not only is there kind of ephemeral material in here, but there's material on the building and structuring of these resorts as well. So we come to the documents list. One of the themes is actually planning and business. And that's really kind of more of a behind the scenes look at the logistics and the kind of business operation of really package holidays and travel agencies as well, particularly in the kind of early to mid 20th century. So we can look at the planning and business. We may want to match that up with material on package tours as well. We could run those filters together. So I think what we'll do now is we'll refine by another key theme. We'll look at children and families. Get rid of these other two. So obviously, for years, the British seaside was the only destination for kind of British families, for British people who weren't, the top 1% who could afford air travel or, boats to the main continent. So it was resorts like Blackpool and Scarborough, like we saw earlier, which were booming, and not only for local people, but people would come all over the country because these were the gems of British holiday making. And it really wasn't until the 1960s, 1970s that the kind of shine started to fade. So I think this brochure is from 1949. So I would say this is still in a boom year. So let's take a look at something else. Again, so we've been talking about these key themes quite heavily already. We can see them. There's two attached to this document here. We can also see the regions and country state as well. So if you're just interested in, Thomas Cook's material on a certain country or even just a certain city or region, that will be picked up either in the full text or in the metadata. So let's take a look at one more. So another area of British tourism that was, obviously booming was holiday camps, and there's a lot of material in here about the emergence of these kind of big structured holiday camps that had really good facilities, but with kind of temporary kind of static caravans. Prestatyn Clipper. So Prestatyn is in Wales, which was a very big place for holiday camps and things like that. 'Cause there's a lot of coastline, but also just a lot of kind of rolling countryside as well. And it was a lot cheaper to kind of build holiday camps there rather than in the southeast where land was a little bit more precious. So you do see a lot of these kind of holiday camps popping up in particularly kind of South and Mid Wales. Okay, so that's the kind of seaside and kind of British homeland tourism stuff. I want to show you some of the image galleries first. So just very quickly before we move on to mass observation, there's a lot of visual material in here, whether that's posters, brochures, maps, photographs. And what we do is we take all that visual material and actually copy it across to it's an image gallery. So these are all available in the main documents list. They're all searchable, but they're also available in this image gallery just to quickly browse. So we could maybe look at just ephemera. See quite a few stickers and badges and postcards. We could maybe look at maybe some maps or maybe some photographs. So the filter's all very simple to use. Okay, and the last thing I want to show you on here is these promotional tourism films. So again, coming back to Thomas Cook, they were very pioneering in their use of film to advertise their holidays and advertise certain destinations. They weren't the only kind of agency doing this in the early 50s, but they put a lot of obviously they had a lot of money, so they produced a lot of these films, and we actually have quite a few of them in the resource. So we can maybe take a look at this one here, Lakes and Leisure. And I should say all of these are transcribed, as we can see here. Transcriptions are searchable. You can download the transcription to PDF if you need to. What we're going to do is just view this in a high-res player. And hopefully it will get you some audio.
In the mountains of northern Italy lies Lake Como. Between hillsides of terraced vineyards, oranges and olive trees, the lake stretches its long arms north into the foothills of the Alps, south towards the country of the Mediterranean. A playground for princes in the past, and in the present a playground still, but now accessible to each of us. A foreign land within our reach, no great distance from our own shore, yet so unlike our own corner of Europe. At the beginning, on On the day of arrival, perhaps, you're not ready to try the iced syrups or the aromatic coffee. Amid the gay, excited voices of holiday Italy, you cling at first to familiar things, like cups of tea, and listen to the orchestra singing its Neapolitan song. But the sun, which burns down generously and continuously, will soon draw you to the bright blue of the water.
So there we are. So that's one example. I mean, if we head back, we can maybe quickly just show you some others. I mean, these usually are kind of European based, as you can probably imagine. So yeah, and we can just move through the transcript here, and if we want to get to a certain bit in the video, all we do is click the hyperlinked time codes here. So we can maybe click one here.
And so are the hotels, all with their views of the sea, their built-in swimming pools, their contemporary styling. You will have seen them strung along the coast from your plane, and not thought that one of these could be yours at the price you're paying. But one of them will be. The Acapulco, the Alcina, the Victoria.
So there we are. I just thought I'd show you a few of those. So yeah, very interesting kind of bank of film material as well, which I think really kind of top off, the back end of the Thomas Cook material we're looking at. And I think this resource as a whole, if you are looking at holiday making and kind of how British people, use their time off work, time away with the family, this resource is incredibly useful. And I've kind of only really touched on, the things that are applicable to this session, but it is really, a kind of Anglo-American focus that is much larger than just, package holidays and day excursions, like from a British perspective, which we've been looking at today. So let's move on to mass observation quickly. If you haven't seen this before, so Mass Observation was a social research organisation set up in 1937. And really the aim of Mass Observation was to kind of observe everyday life in Britain, sometimes anonymously, but most of the time it was through different kinds of data collection, usually from either volunteers or paid workers. So I can come to further resources. We do have a really useful kind of set of essays which introduce the Mass Observation as an organisation, but also the archive, which is currently at the University of Sussex. And you can read that essay here under further resources. But what Mass Observation did is we can see all the different document types here. The bulk of the material were diaries that were submitted by volunteers. So there was a board of 500 diarists at one time. But it was also, questionnaires that were kind of sent out to various members of the public on everything. And we'll get into some of the topics in a second. These also included day surveys, topic collections, which are kind of raw data kind of collated by the organisation's workers, as well as some books actually and some file reports on various topics. And then we'll get to the Worktown collection in a second. So I thought we could run a search first. We'll use the search in the top right hand corner here. So let's run a search for sport. So we've got a lot of results there, 8 pages, so we can use these filters here. Just little tick boxes, and that's going to filter by the document type, which is very crucial to this mass observation material. So let's just take a look at directive questionnaires. So these were questionnaires that were sent out to people interested in mass observation, or they volunteered to kind of answer questions. Mass observation would send out, a huge pile of these, uh, you know, questionnaires on very specific topics. So this is from May 49. We can see where our hit comes in there. So it's question 1A. But let's maybe take a look at the full page, see the questionnaire. So if maybe your interest maybe your interest is more in kind of British, hobbies and pastimes and day-to-day activities. I think there is plenty of material in the mass observation, sometimes which was voluntarily kind of given through diaries, but it was sometimes just anonymously observed in these topic collections, or just came out in these questionnaires. So you can see here it's very sport-related directive, and some kind of lot of political questions at the end here as well. And what we do is we head back. So we've been looking at the actual questionnaire. What we have is all of the respondents to this questionnaire listed. So it's quite a few. This is quite a popular one. So we can click into a respondent. And we can see their answers on sport. So I think this was on which sport do they partake, I think. So what we can do here is, when we need to, we can flick back to the questionnaire. Oh, that's strange. Okay, so I must have clicked into the wrong one. I apologise. But so for here, for example, so we can see a few questionnaires on savings here. Sorry, a few questions on savings, and then straight into jazz. Then we can just move back to the image. Maybe move back to the first page. There we are. His description of jazz. So let's head back. Okay, so we ran a search of sport. I'm going to do that again. So we'll run a search of sport again. This time we're going to refine by diaries. So diaries. These are really kind of the bulk of what mass observation was doing. So we can click into this one here. So this is July 48. It's a male diarist. It's actually a typewritten diary as well, so it's full text searchable. So July 48. So let's have a read of this one. So this is Reverend Watson. I should say, this is supposed to be an anonymous exercise, mass observation. A lot of the time, people would just write their names on their answers or on their diaries, or they'd mention someone's name. So the anonymity of it was not really upheld that well, if I'm honest. But that's the fault of both sides, though. So you can see here, this diarist actually, so this is July 9th to 16th, 48, and he's discussing cricket. The demise of English cricket. Unfortunately, nothing has changed. It's still exactly, as dire as it was back then. But yeah, so for looking at things like, hobbies, these were sort of topics that mass observation were really interested in, not only kind of conventional sport, but hobbies of working people or hobbies of children, pastimes that people undertook, particularly in wartime? Did they keep those hobbies up? Um, were there still sport fixtures being run during the wartime? In kind of various provinces or in London. These diaries and these directives and these topic collections really shine a light on that as an area of study. So we can maybe focus on these topic collections as well. These are kind of very, overarching. They focus on one single issue. So I want to see if there is one on sport, maybe. I'm not sure there is. So you can see some of the topics here. They're things like current affairs, happiness, the Labour Party, sexual behaviour, health, famous people. So art, maybe. So this is a topic collection on the appreciation of art, it seems. Anyway, we are running a little low on time, so the last thing I wanted to show you is another resource quite reasonably similar in kind of material types, and this is American consumer culture. Now this is a large run single archive project, and it really is all down to this man called Ernest Dichter. And he started what was called the Institute for Motivational Research in the 1930s, because he saw companies moving towards consumer psychology and behavioural study, as an area that they were investing in to kind of market their products better. And Dichter was really commissioned out by, some of the biggest companies in the world, in Europe and in America, to do these kind of customer kind of analysis, or these kind of motivational research studies. And then he archived it all at the Hagley Library. So what we can do is, refine. There's not that many document types because they're mainly reports or pilot studies. But we can refine by industry. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is travel and tourism is actually quite a hot industry that was kind of being reported on. I'm going to close that. There's also quite a few languages in here as well. I mentioned, there's a lot of German, French, and Spanish kind of reports in here for, that were commissioned by European companies. What I'm going to do is come to the top right-hand corner here, and I'm going to run a search for holiday or vacation, so depending on the vernacular, I guess. So this is a motivational research on brochures and holiday travel. So we can click into this one. Maybe look at the index. So instantly we can see our search result appearing there. All this material is full text searchable. So a lot of these were kind of aimed at kind of British kind of consumers, and this one is in particular. And I just wanted to show it because it not only combines some really interesting qualitative data, that is difficult to say, with some useful clippings and observations, but also some really interesting quantitative data as well. So if maybe you have students who are interested in text mining these types of collections, it's material like this that is really going to benefit from that. So you can see here, to determine people's attitudes, to analyze the psychological factors, what they expect. Again, we can flick over to the thumbnails tab at the top here just to quickly trawl through it if we need to. This is the interesting thing. So they have various participants who would take part in these focus groups, and they're all labelled things like E7, C35, and they kind of intersect these quotes from these focus groups throughout. So a slightly different angle to looking at, British pastime and British leisure. This was really from the perspective of how do we sell those pastimes and that leisure to British people. What's the psychology of British people, and how does that affect the way we market to them? So you could maybe do some quite interesting, Anglo-French or Anglo-American studies and see how the marketing differed. So let's maybe head back to our search results. Okay. Well, I think we will leave it there then. Thank you so much for attending. Really appreciate it. Do look out for our other webinars that are coming up for the rest of the year and next year. And please do get in touch if you have any questions, or if any of this looks of interest and you'd like to get access. Just let me know, because we'd be more than happy to oblige. And have a good day, everyone. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.